the protests in June in Brazil, and it's kind of my idea is more like show up how the artist scene are behind that, and how and demystify a little that idea of a rise. That the protest just was a wake up Brazil, you know, that woke up to Brazil, because it wasn't. So the big protests were the movement who are for like the last 8 years, almost 10 years, doing like a real education on the basis, like using like popular education, graphic designers, artists, scenes, involve all the one cultural scene, one really large cultural scene, to teach how to change the system, getting one thing, the free access to public transportation. In the public transportation, actually bus, because like in case the movement was born in São Paulo, but in the case like the far neighborhoods, they didn't have like trains to access to the downtown or the big part of the city. So the bus thing was, the public transportation was a big thing, because São Paulo, like the bus fare, just like the last 10 years, just grow like so fast, you know, just increase like so high. Then it was very visible how the segregation was made by transportation in Brazil. And this is one, not like a phenomenon in big cities like São Paulo or Rio de Janeiro, was a phenomenon like everywhere in Brazil. And pretty much like for the last 5-6 years, when the government Lula reduced the tax to buy cars, and the cars were the big deal. I remember like my childhood, we just got like old cars, you know, you didn't have money, and pretty much of my friends, sometimes one car in the family, or friends like the family who never had a car. That's why I never drove in Brazil, and I never drove a car before here. So because like public transportation was the big deal, like walk a lot and whatever. So the last 6 years, when the taxes were reduced for that, we saw like a big traffic of cars, and the cars were just concentrating like all the wealth like in the center of the cities. So it was very visible. People like saying, I don't have money to go to the center of the city because I can't pay for transportation and I don't have a car. So this was very visible. So this movement got the idea that, okay, this is one a big barrier for separate like rich for poor people, and this is our goal. We need to find a way to push the system down and increase like our power to get access to the center, so get access to the cities. So, but it's pretty much not just bus. The thing is be available to go to the city and do your stuff, get entertainment, get your job, you know. So it was a free movement, like for more than public transportation. So they began with that thing, and I want to show to you guys a little how the movement for a while was using artists in graphics. Oh gosh. And things like brochures, like to explanation for the communities and poor communities in the case, how to make the all the steps to be against the system, like clarify, and pretty much for the students and high educated students, like middle and high schools. So it was a movement for kids, you know. I remember like 10 years ago, most of friends in Sao Paulo, like working with kids, like in the age like 9 to 13, just like getting groups, like doing popular education with the groups, and using the theme of bus and fair to involve them in political, critical ideas. So in pretty much the movement, use like a lot of graphics, like we're getting together a cultural like artist scene, like not just artists, like people involved in art design, people involved in writing articles, like professors too, you know, they get together like for the long time, all those like managers or workers to work together for that. So the movement like in June was a step, like was a step-by-step build up for a large community of people getting involved for this thing. And how is this this is really important. The other thing that I want to show to you guys is the movement had like pretty much so this is the web page. On the web page it's everything in Portuguese, that's unfortunately, but on the web page it's very organized with all the graphics and publications and interviews and videos made by community organizers or artists and whatever, or even like people who just like made a video and give to them to use it to involve community on it. So it's not just a talk thing. So for pretty much over the years, they're gonna using a lot of graphic videos, animation, you know, everything, and graffitis. A lot of graffitis spread out the city. And the good thing was not just in São Paulo, was pretty much in all cities, like in Brazil. Like not all regions, but if you get like northeast, you have pretty much like 2 capitals, like 2 big cities, like doing pretty much the same. You know? And the movement is very horizontal. They don't have one team, like they have a core team, but the core team not demand like for other cities to do the same. It's very like something necessary, like something that came from the, how can I say, arise, because it's a necessity, you know. So and they get involved in this cause, like in this team, because the kids in Bahia in 2003, they just, like students, like high school students with 13, 14 years old, they just jumped the catracas, turnstiles. They jumped turnstiles in Bahia, like, and they just like got a bunch of other kids doing that, and all the media was like, what the fuck, what is going on? And they announced that, and they say, what? We should do that more. And so those kids just like show the sign for them, and they start to build the movement. They just get together the idea to teach like critical political ideas with kids and get this team in those discussions, like in schools or public schools in Brazil. So the movement, like the protests were like pretty much 2 phases. Like the first one was, oh my God, what is the, that's it. The first one was in June. What's the other one? The first one was starting June, and it was pretty much 15 days doing like protests, and pretty much just the free fair movement getting like pushing people. So the other idea that the media tried to convince the mass was a network, like was social network movement. And that's not the real thing. We have like a really large Twitters, like people like posting on Twitter and Facebook announced, but actually the movement was working like in basins and get connected with the other cities to make the protests in the same day. So that's one thing, like they got emails, they use Facebook for that, but they did not start on Facebook or tweeting, you know? So the first 15 days, like before like the second phase, was very just free fair movement on the streets. And they got like a really a situation that they use like a fire. They start like one day making like a big fire in front of the city hall in São Paulo, and the fire was big, like, and got attraction from the media, and the police came. And in that point, the police was not so violent. They just like came out and like, what's going on? But days before, they come back to the streets, and the police was like using like a gas bomb, and the pepper gas bomb, and it was terrible. So this is pretty much the first week of, I'm gonna put that, the first week of the movement, or the protest, and it was, you can hear just bomb everywhere, you know. And that girl who is making who made this video, she is the core team of the bus fare movement, and she was blind when she was like, she just made this video blind, and when she came back home, it was really hard situation, just bombs everywhere. She just realized that the bombs that Brazil make, they're like strong, like they're really, really strong. You know, eles são as mais fortes do mundo inteiro.
The strongest of the whole world, the most concentrated.
Yeah. So the thing was, the movement announced we need to use vinegar. So that was the idea. And the vinegar idea was they spread out, they used Twitter, so we're gonna back to streets and bring your vinegar.
Vinegar counteracts the tear gas.
Yes. So the people announced, and they came out, and like normal, regular people, they just like get the vinegar with them. And so the media, that's a really remarkable moment for the protests, because the police and the media just used the vinegar against them, like to say, hey, they have bombs in their hands, and so we're gonna attack. So the protest in second moment just was like reverse, like the reverse of how the government, media, and police like change the idea of the protest. So the free fair movement not lose the way to do the protest, but they was just like, okay, now we are against the police, against the government, and against the media. But the media was so violent, announced like, wow, they are like a vandalist, like they're doing bad for the city. And it was really nice, because in that moment, a lot of people came with all the like against the police, because they could see, no, they're using vinegar to protect their eyes, you know, to protect themselves. So in the second moment, all the protests, like the rallies, that we had before for the last 3 years in Brazil came out and on the streets. So the second movement is a remarkable movement to get all people together. So in these movements, the rallies, they didn't begin like in 2012. They started like in 2009, 2010, 2011, all over the years, and it was pretty much 3. The SlutWalk, like, was huge. The global marijuana march was huge. Like in São Paulo, they got 1,000 people on the streets in 2011, 2010, and they got like, was the movement like, who got together like a lot of people in other cities too. This movement like make people get out and go to the street, get out to the house and go to the streets. Like in 2010, 2011, against the global, the World Cup and the big projects, big plans and big projects in Brazil was like 2010, 2011. So pretty much, and all these movements they came before this big protest. So in 2010, 2011, 2012, against the homophobia, like to change the law for homophobia in Brazil. So was pretty much one movement before to get free speech and free rights to use your body the way that you want to use. So, and the other side was movements connecting activists, like to make a boom, like in graphic video things against the World Cup, against the dams in Brazil, against like the forest code. Can I say that? The code for the big law for forestation in Brazil. Yeah. So that's a remarkable. They want to like when Dilma assumed like the government, she just like made a big change in 2011. I don't know if you remember the Rio Plus 20, like the big meeting. She just accept like rewrite the forestation code to decrease indigenous areas, because the energy plan for Brazil who bring money to rebuild cities and to put money to rebuild cities like for World Cup, Olympic Games, and make like Rio like a global city to Brazil. So it was like a big corporation system like in Brazil, like, and the people were not blind for that. The people were very aware, like, oh, that shit is connected. And so the rallies, even if they were more about bodies, like about free about gays rights or marijuana use, like legalize the marijuana use, they get together with all those, they connected themselves like with all those things. And pretty much artists like Latuf is a huge cartoonist in Brazil. He was made like tons of cartoons spread out to the world, like in Portuguese and English too. He made like this video with an anarcho-funk. So in the same time, since 2010, we have like a movement doing funk, anarcho-funk, like, and it's huge, like pretty much is the sound behind protests. No. in Latuf, like this artist, like he's doing like videos, cartoons, and spread like for all movements. Like he just give donation, like give like a donation for all those movements. The other one is this guy's. Oh my God, it's so slow. But this is the anarcho-funk guys, like the crew, and pretty much this video they show how they connecting people on the protest. They go to the street, they start like how can I say quando eles têm tema para protesto.
Beatboxing?
Certain theme for the protest.
Yeah, so they go to the street and they start that, like they start to make the music. And they get involved the people in the protest doing funk and make the music. So it's very musical movement. It's not just like go to the street. So it's kind of like, that's why I think pretty much the people go to the streets and get involved. Because it's not like, it's serious, but it's not, this is a protest like, oh my God, what's going on?
Can you reload it?
Whatever.
That little arrow up there? Yeah, that one.
Pretty much. But since 2011, when the SlutWalk started to take it out clothes, like take it out like t-shirt, pretty much the protests were remarkable to seeing people naked on the streets. So be naked, make like music, like doing protests, and do protests like in musical ways, like get people involved, people more on the street. And it's a really good way to get people involved too with other movements. So like I just saw like people who are doing music before, just like getting connected with people who are like writing songs, you know, and get together in the protest to connect in themselves and make like the second protest, like, okay, we are together now. So, well, this is in the middle, like you can see how the people were, they like again when the Pope came to Brazil, so they pretty much show like how all those things are connected, like music, performance art, like homophobia protests, like SlutWalk, police violence, like everything came out in this time. And the last thing is just like a few pictures. Oh my God, I'm very messy with that. I'm sorry. Well, I think I can stop and we can have more room for questions, and I can show pictures that I have, and that's it. So that's it.